Hello guys and welcome back to Rossoneri TV. I'm Gio and I'm here for the biggest video of the year probably, and that is because Milan has officially been sold. I don't think I was ever going to be saying these words. I've been talking about reports, rumors for God knows how long. It's been months, maybe years, but finally the time has come. Milan has finally been sold. All the official confirmations came in earlier this morning from Fininvest as they sold to Rossoneri Lux Corporation. Everything has been settled. All the paperwork has been done. And Yong Ong Lee is expected to be the new Presidente of AC Milan after Silvio Berlusconi leaves after 30 years of success, lots of trophies, lots of emotions, but it is finally time to say goodbye to Silvio Berlusconi. Like I said, he had a very good presence at Milan. Maybe in the last few years he couldn't accomplish what he had done in the past with this team, but at least, he made himself a part. And he explained the difficulties that he had with the investments, and therefore he gave in, the team. He finally gave the team to some investors, people that are expecting to spend a lot of money in the next few years, and that will be starting, of course, this summer, as they're expecting to spend at least 130 to 140 million euros. So definitely bright times ahead. But we have a lot to discuss today. It's not only about the sale itself, but we also have to discuss about the future. What does this sale actually entail us? What does this sale actually mean for AC Milan? And what future projections could we actually make with this new owner, new board, I guess you could say, with Rossoneri Mirabelli as well. I know we've spoken about them for a long time, but I actually really want to touch on these topics. And of course, guys, make sure to send in your questions, comments, whatever you want to ask regarding the sale or what you think about the future. This is the video to do it. And like I said, I've been waiting a really long time to make this video, and finally the day has arrived. Joining me today is actually the man, the myth, the legend himself, Adamo Ritacco. No, you guys thought it was Berlusconi, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. He had to fill out some paperwork as he's retiring. Is Berlucopter. Mr. Ritacco, finally the big day has arrived. Your first impressions on these news, your first ideas on the whole takeover. What are your thoughts, sir?
I mean, guys, I'm just a little bit emotional today. Today's the day. Today's the day that shit hits the fan, that there's no more, Abate coming back from injuries like a new signing. Today is the day that Milan takes its next steps to making the Champions League once and for all. We can finally be a club and a bunch of fans who are actually happy to watch this team. And I have to say, Berlusconi is an amazing man. He did a lot for Milan. I have complete respect for him. But just like Arsene Wenger, he had to let go. And I think he made the right decision. And hopefully that Chinese money can bring us some top quality players.
Yeah, I definitely hope that's the case. As you said there, we're all waiting for that money to come in order to sign players, which will happen for sure. That's the guarantee that Berlusconi was asking for the Chinese. And obviously there's been so many complications over the past months regarding funds being transferred from China to Italy. But finally, there was that American fund, I believe it's called Elliott or something, that gave authorization to the Chinese to have some funds. And of course, the Chinese will have to pay that fund back. But I'm pretty sure you guys don't care about all this boring financial crap that has to go along with it. What is the most important thing today is that Milan has finally been sold, and we do have a new owner. So a lot of people are asking in the questions, in the comments, who's this new owner? What's his name? What does he have? What background does he have? From what I understand, his wife is actually business related. I don't know if he has to do with some industries from what I've read. But his name is Yongong Lee. And the man that actually is part of the whole Rossoneri sport investment lux is his name is David Han Lee, and I believe they're working together for this project now. And like I said, Fininvest has sold the share to Rossoneri Sport Investment Lux, and the head of this organization seems to be David Han Lee. He's the representative. I'm not quite sure if he's the head of the whole thing, but he's definitely the representative in terms of dealing with all the financial transactions and so forth. Also, in terms of the funds, Milan was evaluated at 740 million euros. So that's the money that the Chinese actually paid in order to get the ownership, the transfer of the ownership. But yeah, personally, I don't know much about this guy. I definitely read a lot of rumors, reports on him. All I hope is that he finally brings in the money and he brings in the investments and he makes his team great again. We heard him say already today that his main objective really is, to make the team great again, to bring it back to its heights, to bring it back where it belongs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as we all know, words are one thing, actions are another. I'm pretty sure he's a man of his word, but until I see the proper investments being made, I'm still, I'm not skeptical about the whole situation, because I'm happy that, the takeover has been taking place. But this is a big question that a lot of people obviously have on their hands, and that is, what insurances, what could these guys actually bring to the table in terms of players? Of course, they are backed up by very familiar faces in Italian football, and of course that is Fassone and Mirabelli, guys that are known to scout in Italy and across Europe, so of course they're going to know exactly what type of players to go after. But yeah, it is a new change. It is pretty much a big change that it's going to take some time to get used to, because we won't be seeing Galliani anymore. We won't be seeing Berlusconi anymore. Yeah, maybe Galliani could still be going to the San Siro from time to time to watch the game as a spectator and do his crazy celebrations.
Yes.
But other than that, the guy has no more say in the club, and that's pretty much the hard truth. Now, Adamo, I actually really wanted to mention this and talk about it with you. Projections and priorities for the future. Now the club has been taken over. What are the main priorities according to you? Is it to renew certain players' contracts? And of course, we already know what we're speaking about. Is it to go on the transfer market and give a really big attacking philosophy to this transfer market, meaning that, they actually go for the main pieces, to scare off opposition to Serie A? What's the main priority for you exactly?
I think one of the biggest priorities, especially with his new agent, Mino Raiola, everybody's thinking about it, is re-signing Gianluigi Donnarumma, because this guy, there's been speculation like crazy. He said he loves Milan. He said he'd never leave. But then, sometimes he says, it's down to my agent. And we all know Mino Raiola loves those transfer agent fees. As we saw with Pogba, he made about 40 million himself from the transfer. So if he can push for a move to a big club like Barcelona or Real Madrid or Man U or Bayern Munich, he will definitely push for that, which is why I don't like having him as a player's agent. But I think the good news is that Donnarumma, now that there's clarity in the sale, he will be more likely to stay, because Raiola has always said the excuse of he wants to know who's in charge. And, that's fair enough, because I think a player and an agent should know who he's playing for, who's running the team, if they're in good hands. So I think they always had a good reason with that. And I think that this coming up year will be huge. And I think that the reveal of the owner and the legitimacy of the deal, not something like Mr. B in the past, is something that a player like Donnarumma will appreciate. And I think it will, encourage him to actually sign that contract, because when you think of it, he's only 18. He just turned 18 recently. I don't think he'll be wanting to go anywhere anytime soon, but we're more concerned about the future. In the next 5 years, what's going to happen with Donnarumma when he's the best in the world at what he does. So I think this is a very good sign. And, speaking on the legitimacy of that, I think it's a very good sign as well that Berlusconi actually waited so long to actually hand the club over. obviously it was very painful for us, but we saw with Mr. B that fell through, and then with these investors, there's a lot of speculation. And Berlusconi consistently said that he wants somebody who's going to give the best to the club, and he wants to ensure that the club's in good hands. So I feel, even though we don't know much about these owners, that Berlusconi has definitely done his research and is trying to do his best pretty much to ensure that Milan is in good hands. So I think there's a trust level that we can have for these people. Of course, like you said, words don't mean too much if the actions don't back it up. So they're going to have to do a lot of work. But, obviously if Milan do make Europa League from the genius display by Montella, who should definitely be staying, by the way. If you ask me, I don't think because now we have all this money, we should go try to get a Pep Guardiola coach. I think Montella is perfect for Milan in the position that they're in right now, and I think he enjoys it here. But most importantly, if we do somehow make Europa League, we're going to need a bigger squad. The squad we have now is already thin as it is. When we play in the Serie A and we get an injury, we already have to play players out of position. So if we're playing in two different competitions, including the Serie A and then Europe, and then you also have the Team Cup and all that stuff. So technically 3, actually. You're going to need a lot of squad depth. So I think Milan are going to need to keep a hold of the players they do have, as well as adding key players, thus creating depth in the lineup, because you're going to need 2 players per position practically if you're going to want to be able to seriously compete in Europe, if that's the club's intentions. And, I think that when you look at the summer transfer window, I'm not expecting anything wild. I don't think we're going to spend 300 million euros like Manchester United or Real Madrid do consistently in the transfer windows. But I think that Milan will sign at least 1 to 2 big-name players, and then they'll fill in the rest of the pieces come the next coming years, as well as bringing in some youth players and freshening up the team. Because I do believe that Milan's average age of the squad is around 25 years old, which is insane. So I think that, there's a lot of projections and a lot of potential that Milan could have. And I think that Chinese will have a lot on their hands. But, with the people that they've hired, as you mentioned, they brought a lot of people who know Italian football. So I think that, going forward, Milan will be in good hands. And I think that, the main objectives, of course, is going to be able to potentially, if we qualify for Europa League, be ready for that battle, be ready for qualifying for Champions League, spending in the window, balancing out the squad, signing Donnarumma especially. And I think that Milan will succeed.
Yeah, lots of great points out there, Damo. Thank you for sharing them. And I completely agree with that. There's definitely a lot going on at the moment. And going back to what you said about Donnarumma and Raiola, they both mentioned that, they want to wait until the new owners come in to understand their intentions, to clear things up. And I think it's understandable. And I've said this already a few months ago, back in January or even December, when people were asking me what's happening about Donnarumma's contract extension and renewal. Well, I said, the guy has the right to just talk to the new owners to understand their intentions and plans going forward. And to be honest with you, I think that the Chinese, like I said, we still have to wait until the summer to actually see the names coming up in terms of players, but I think they're all about the good intentions, or else Berlusconi wouldn't get them. He wouldn't leave Milan just for the sake of it. My point is that he left the club in hands that he believes will continue this legacy that he, ended with. So I definitely believe that these guys will be continuing to bring good successes in the future for the club. Another player that actually I'm very interested in and still hasn't got his contract renewed is Suso, because a lot of speculations on him also regarding the summer. Will he be staying at Milan? Will he be leaving? And a lot really depends on this contract extension. So this is another player, in my opinion, that I believe they should be locking in. Maybe it should happen in a few weeks, who knows, but it should definitely occur before the season ends. And Suso, speaking of him, he also said that the team is good, the team is very good as it is, but he believes that maybe 4 to 5 players is exactly the type of amount of players that need to come into this team to rejuvenate and add in the depth, the quality that this team is sometimes lacking. So yeah, I completely agree with him. This is not a team that needs to completely be thrown out of the window, because there are a lot of good players. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of young, young players that are gonna come out through the ranks, and these guys could definitely have very good careers, whether it's at Milan or any other club. So it's definitely not a team, a club with a lot of players that deserve to leave. Definitely, there's maybe 4 or 5, maybe even a bit more in terms of amount of players that need to leave. And these players that do leave need to be replaced by good quality players. Even though they're not starters, they must be perfect players. Like you said there, Adamo, we will most probably, of course, nothing is set in stone just yet, but we will most probably have to fight on 3 fronts next season: the Europa League, the Serie A, and the Coppa Italia. And if that's the case, we're definitely going to need the depth. You saw how many injuries we got this season. Whether it was Suso, Bonaventura, Montolivo, you name it. These guys cannot play every game. You need players that will be coming off the bench, quality players that could fill in their shoes and provide the results that this club needs. Now, a few other issues that I wanted to speak about the future of this club and the future with these new owners, of course. These are more of minor issues, I guess you could say. But one of them you also mentioned there regarding Montella, and I think a lot needs to be cleared up regarding Montella. Will they be looking to exceed or expand? Really, is stay at Milan? Will he be staying here for the long term? Do they see him as a long-term project, or do they see him as a momentarily a project that's just for the moment? These are all big questions to answer, and in my opinion, like you said there, Adamo, this guy deserves to stay at the club. What he's done with this team, with the lack of players, lack of quality in most times, to me, it just speaks volumes. And I'm very pleased with what he's done so far this season. Of course, there's still 7 games left, I believe. So definitely, I'm very happy with his work. I was very impressed with what he's done. But you could just imagine what more this guy could do with quality players coming in, with better players at his disposal. Mm-hmm. So definitely, I believe he should be a coach that will stay for quite some time. I'm not saying that he deserves to stay at the club for 10 years, because God knows what's going to happen at the club in 10 years. But at least for the next couple of years, this guy deserves a chance, because he's been starting off a very good job, and I think he's definitely heading in the right direction. Also, a few other things that I also read from Football Italia. I know usually they're not the best of sources, but they do bring up some very good points here. And one of them is regarding the stadium. Because a lot of people are thinking maybe, what's happening with the stadium? Will they be staying at the San Siro, or will they, once again, try to build their own stadium in a different area? And this was a major deal back a few years ago. I'm pretty sure you remember that, Adamo.
Yeah.
When we even made videos about the plan, and they all had all those graphics settled. They had that video on their channel where you could show the whole thing, the 3D model. I'm like, wow, this looks beautiful. And then what happened to that? Like, it was pretty much thrown out of the window. Mm-hmm. So definitely, that's another big question on the new ownership. Will they be thinking of making a new stadium, or will they be thinking of staying at the San Siro? Also, transparency is another thing. Transparency. This is a topic that, unfortunately in the last few years, we have been not seeing much transparency. And Milan has been doing a lot of the dirty work under the table, I guess you could say. The fans haven't been advised or aware of the conditions of the club, or what was going on with the club in terms of buying players, people getting fired for no apparent reason. And God almighty, I can name like 3-4 coaches there. Anyways, there was a lot of bullshit going on in the last few years, and Milan decided to keep silent. They decided to not say anything regarding the whole situations, or pretty much make up stupid excuses. What we need from this new ownership is that notion of transparency. They need to be direct with the fans. They need to address them face to face, tell them how things are, most importantly, and not try to hide anything, because the truth will come out. And that's exactly what happened with Milan, and Berlusconi. The truth will come out. So that's another thing important. We need honest owners. We need people that will come face to face, direct their message, direct their intentions towards the fans in the most clear way as possible. So hopefully that will be settled with this new ownership. So that's pretty much the main topics, I guess you could say, for the future of Milan. The main priorities that Milan should be looking at in order to, get back on the right track. I think we're already back on the right track, but, continue down that road and expand to many more options around the globe and so forth. Now, it's time to get into your comments. We have been talking for about 20 minutes. Now it's your time to share your thoughts, your comments, your reactions to really the news that came out, that broke out this morning regarding the Milan sale. Let me know what you guys thought initially. Also, let me know what you guys think about the new ownership, what their intentions must be, who they might have to go after in order to make this team better in the summer. Let me know all of that in the comment section, and we will be addressing your questions for the next 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, Jim 10 says regarding the stadium, San Siro is 80,000 plus seats. He believes that's enough. Adamo, do you believe now with the new owners, Milan could once again, gain that following that they had in previous years? Obviously prior to all this dilemma that has been going on after the Ibrahimovic and Thiago Silva sale, and after all the senators left as well. Do you believe they could draw back, a big part of the fan base, a part that used to come back, that used to come to the San Siro on a very, frequent occasions? Do you think they can finally bring that back? And like I said, Jim 10 is saying 80,000 plus seats. That's more than enough. But as we know, in economics or financial reasoning, having a big stadium is not always so profitable, especially if you don't fill in every seat. Sometimes, even a slightly smaller stadium could actually bring in more profit to you than a big stadium with many empty seats would do. But what's your take on all of that?
I think it's interesting because we saw clubs like Juventus, for example, make a new stadium, and they've gained so much from it financially, the fan experience. They haven't lost a home game in I don't know how long because that stadium is a fortress, and I think that is the key, making your stadium a fortress. But I think the problem with Juve's old stadium is it was too much like the classic Italian Olympic stadiums that just don't work in football. But when you look at the San Siro, when the San Siro was renovated so long ago, it was made into so modern that it still even fits today. There's no track around the pitch. The fans are still close to the pitch. There's a whole experience. So I think the only negative about the San Siro is that it's 80,000, but when you fill it up, it is probably the most dominant stadium in the world. There's a reason why it hosted the Champions League recently, because that is easily one of the most historic stadiums. From the success from Milan and Inter to the fan experience to just the overall experience of the stadium, it is an incredible stadium. But the problem is, can we fill it up? And I think that it all depends on money for these owners. I don't think these owners are here because they love Milan. They're here for money, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Some people will say, oh, they just want to make money. But to make money, you have to succeed. This isn't the Premier League where you can finish like Arsenal, for example, 4th place. Or even, for example, you could be just above relegation in the Premier League and you're making hundreds of millions of dollars. In the Serie A, it's not like that. In the Serie A, you have to actually compete. You have to succeed. You actually have to proceed in the Champions League to be able to make that kind of money and put up those numbers. So I think that, with the state of the Serie A and with the state of everything, the financials will be a huge impact. And I think that it will cause the new investors to want to make the club succeed so they can make more money in return from shirt sales, from selling out the San Siro potentially. But, as you said, the question, is the San Siro good enough? I think it's an incredible stadium. But the problem is filling it, and I think that, when you see, I'm pretty sure with the links that we had with the old stadium, they were going for not that many seats. I think it was like 30 or 40,000. Like, it was practically half the San Siro.
Yeah.
And, that brings a lot of benefits to the club. I think that a new stadium sort of resembles the new era at Milan. So that might be a marketing play that they might try to, pursue with. But then again, you also have to think making a stadium costs a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And, is it worth it when you have a perfectly good stadium? And also, it adds to the storyline of Inter versus Milan because you're playing in the same stadium. That's like, you're fighting for the San Siro. You're fighting for the city. And I think that, playing in the same stadium sort of adds that, rivalry, saying that this is our home. And then, whoever wins, they get to dominate the San Siro. So I think there's a lot of history to the stadium. And I think that it has the right to stay at the club. But it's just a problem on how well we succeed. If the projection is to win the league within the next 5 years, I would keep the San Siro for sure. But if the projection in the next 5 years is to qualify for the Champions League once, I don't think keeping the San Siro is a good idea because you're not going to be dragging in that many fans if you're finishing 6th to 7th place. So I think it all depends on the projection of the club and how many fans they can actually get to show up.
Yeah, very good points there. Personally, I believe that the new stadium will one day come. It might not be in 2 years, it might not be in 3 years, but I believe a new stadium will one day come. Mark my words, guys. Like I said, it all really depends on what the club's intentions are now. But I wouldn't really see this as a main priority at the moment. Like I said, it's not something that will probably go down the line in 2 to 3 years from now. It's something that I could see more long-term than that. And that's why I think Milan should mostly focus on getting players, achieving their objectives, and getting the results that they need, more than anything else. Getting to some comments regarding Montella, Abdul Bahilil says, I honestly think that the Chinese will keep Montella. He has shown he deserves to stay, and he has that magical ability to rejuvenate the careers of players. Montella is a must for next season. I already expressed my approval of that beforehand, and I truly believe that Montella deserves a chance for next season. He's been doing very good things with these current players. I could just imagine what he could do with better players. So yeah, definitely agree with that. Some more comments here coming in. Jim 10 also says we have to say a big thank you to Berlusconi for the great memories we will keep. So guys, send in your comments regarding the whole thing, regarding the sale or any players that you think Milan should buy or so forth. Super Kaka 22 says, I just hope that we end up bringing in some important players and not spend money for the sake of spending like Man United did when they spend 200 million every summer and they can't even get into the Champions League.
Yeah.
Oh, I honestly agree with that. But, I think, like I mentioned before, Milan has a very, okay, I wouldn't say very, but they have a good team. They have a good team at the moment. It's not like we're like in the past few years. We have improved, and that's for sure. But like I mentioned before, we need at least 4 or 5 replacements, 4 or 5 players that could, give that extra spark, that could give Milan the qualification that they need in order to join the Champions League. Also, I just wanted to make a side comment regarding the new ownership. Tomorrow, there will be the press conference where they will obviously address the media and so forth. So I think we'll know a lot more tomorrow regarding their intentions or other plans they might have. And they will also be greeting and meeting the squad tomorrow. So the new players will finally have the occasion, the opportunity to meet the new owners. So that's just a side note that I wanted to add regarding this takeover. A lot of people are saying that that Deulofeu should stay. Obviously, we spoke about this in the past. We said that, it really doesn't all depend on us. A lot of people are saying he's probably going back to Barcelona. I think that something might happen and Galliani somehow still managed to speak with Barcelona and to formulate some sort of deal. Because I remember someone asking him a question regarding Deulofeu, and he's like, I can't say anything, but you will see, or something like that. So I'm pretty optimistic regarding the whole thing. But, we're going to have to wait and see what happens exactly with Deulofeu. What's your take on that? Do you think that Deulofeu will be staying at the club next year? Especially considering the fact that Bonaventura will come back. So what do you think of that?
Honestly, I think he will. I know that Barcelona do have the clause in his contract, but I don't think Barcelona's intentions are to bring him back and play him. I think the whole point is that they see that, much like Madrid were, doing in the first place, but now they've kept Morata. But they see that he's performing, they bring him back, and they see how much money they can get from a different team. So say he's performing now, Barcelona cash back, and then they make another 40 million off of doing nothing just from bringing the player back and selling him back to England or something of that sort. And, with the new owners, I think that, Milan and also as you mentioned, Galliani, he must have some relationship or some deal that he can work out with Barcelona because, Galliani usually doesn't say much. And if he says something, we always latch on to it because, if he gives the media anything, you definitely know something's going on. So I think that Milan can definitely get him because if Barcelona's only intentions are to, buy him and sell him and just make a flip value, I think that Milan can give him the money that they want.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
if Barcelona want the money, they can just ask us for it, and then we'll pay whatever they're asking for because now Deulofeu is getting to know the league. He's proven that he can perform. And another big point about him is I think something very important about the way he plays is that he's not as predictable as players like El Shaarawy or even maybe Suso is now because we all know Suso loves his left foot. But the way Deulofeu plays is just he just reads the game so well and he's always in the perfect position to score. So I think that he's a player that, come the next couple of years, he will be big for Milan, even if we go deep into the Champions League in the next 5 years, for example. My dogs agree with me, as you can hear them. But I think that, if Barcelona's only intention is to flip Deulofeu, because I don't think they're going to be selling or using him anytime soon, I think that Milan can just give him the money they're asking for.
Well, that's exactly a very good point you brought up there because chances are, Deulofeu, he won't be finding any playing time. Let's be honest. If he goes back to Barcelona, he's not going to be playing any minutes. He's going to be running on the bench, the guy. Chances are that if Barcelona decide to keep him, they will most likely sell him. And I think that I mentioned this like back in January or February. I said that really it all depends on the player's intentions and will. And I said this endless times, if the player, expresses his will to stay at Milan and does all that he could to tell Barcelona, listen, I want to stay at the club. I don't want to come back. Whatever it is, even if you guys have to, set a price for me, do it. Milan's going to pay it off. That's exactly the type of thing that I personally see going forward with Deulofeu. Because, like you mentioned there, yes, Barcelona is probably going to get him back, but what will they do with him? Will they play him? I really don't think so. Yes, he's a good player to come off the bench, but will he really want that type of future, knowing that, he was getting consistent playing time at Milan, he could become an icon of Milan, which is still a very big name in world football, and with the new investments, with the new players coming in, this whole, urge or this whole excitement that Milan will once again be back to where they belong, I think that if I had to choose between the two projects, I would definitely choose the Milan project, if you think of it, for many reasons. So, I don't know, that's just my perspective on the whole situation regarding Deulofeu. We'll know definitely more towards the end of the season, but my opinion is that Deulofeu could definitely remain at the club. Let's read some more comments now, seeing what you guys have to say. By the way, a lot of people are asking how much will the new owners be spending this summer. From what I read, they're supposed to be spending around 130 to 140 million euros, something like that, which should be getting us at least 4 players, if you think of it. Sean Samuel says new owner needs to spend 120 million in each of the next 4 transfer windows. We need 2 world-class midfielders and 1 world-class center back. Well, besides those additions, I would also add a world-class striker. Baka's good, but he's very inconsistent. We need a guy like an Ibra or a very big name like Griezmann or whatever the case is. Let's see some more questions before we sign off. Insigne, I know that will definitely please you a lot, Adamo. I know you're a big fan of that. What would you think of him possibly coming? Of course, he still hasn't extended his contract with Napoli, and things are looking quite dark for his future at Napoli. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, he's had a lot of problems with the fans. He's had a lot of problems with the club. especially now with Mertens being so good. When Milik is fully recovered and they give him the chance, what's going to happen to Insigne? I mean, he still has had an incredible season. 14 goals, 7 assists. Last year, he hit double digits as well, so for both goals and assists. So I think that, Insigne has definitely – he's starting to pick up his game. I think that before, in his early 20s, he was a bit too inconsistent. He'd have one good year, die off the next year, and then have another good year and die off again. But there's been 2 straight years that he's been amazing. And, should he want to come to Milan, I would absolutely love him. My only thing is I don't know if he'll actually leave Napoli for Milan, who by the time he would leave would probably be a competitor with Napoli. It's kind of like Pjanic going to Juventus. And, with a city like Napoli, you never know. I mean, there's always stories about back then when they want to sell Maradona because he was such a drug addict. He always brought problems to the club, and they want to sell him. But if you sell the best player in the world to the city of Napoli and they're leaving the city, the whole city's going to riot against you, like we saw with Baggio in Fiorentina. I think that, Napoli selling Insigne, although they have problems with the fans and the club sometimes, I don't know. I think that if he were to leave, he'd probably go to England. He's a very fast player. He fits their style of play. Got a lot of pace, as those Jamie Carragher commentators like to say. But I think that, if he were to leave Napoli, I think he'd go to England. But I would 1,000% take him at Milan.
Yeah, it's all about that pace, isn't it? I truly agree with you there. I definitely hope that, if he's an option to get, definitely I would welcome him with open arms.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Like I said, there's a lot of things that will happen this summer. Finally, guys, I guess we could say after 3 summers at least, 3-4 summers, we're finally going to have an exciting summer. Let's just say that. And it's not going to be one on free transfers. It's not going to be one where, we're going to be spending the whole month of July. Yeah, where we're going to be spending the whole month of July speaking about transfers. And then guess what? None of those will come. How many times has that happened on Rossoneri TV where I just speak about players on a consistent basis? I'm pretty much ruining my voice, my vocal cords, to speak about these players, and then no one even arrives to the club. Well, things are going to be different. At least that's what it appears to be this summer. Lots of excitement coming in. Guys, honestly, I think this summer is going to be the right one. So make sure you subscribe to Rossoneri TV because we will be providing as many news as possible, as frequently as possible. I know recently I haven't had the time to really, work a lot on the channel, but I definitely hope that I can put more time in the next few weeks. Also don't forget, tomorrow there will be the match preview for the Derby della Madonnina. The match will be played on Saturday, the 15th. So just to clarify, it's not on Sunday, it's on Saturday, and it's a very, very early one for especially the people in North America. Also in Europe, 12:30 p.m. for a freaking derby. It's an
lunchtime.
It's a lunchtime derby. It's on Saturday. Sunday, of course, is Easter, so there's no games then. But make sure you stay tuned to Rossoneri TV not to miss any of the news, not to miss any of the action. Like I said, it's going to be an exciting summer ahead. So make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay updated with everything going on at AC Milan. Thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you for all your questions. And thank you to the man, myth, and legend himself, Adamo Ritaka, for joining me. This guy is actually going to Italy next week.
It's happening, guys. It's happening.
To do some work with Italian Football TV. So
you're going to see some cool stuff.
Very happy for him. I definitely hope you have a good trip there, Adamo, and bring us some goodies, of course.
Some focaccia.
And some Nutella if you want. But that's all up to you. And that's pretty much it, guys. So thank you for joining. I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow for the match preview. And as always, Forza Milan.